Hello, I'm Helen Hughes. In tonight's news, I'll have a report on the three parties fielding candidates for the Newcastle City Council elections: the Citizens Group, the Labor Party and the Liberal Party. Also, people wishing to vote have until the 4th of next month to get their name on the electoral roll.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
Just 1 hour away from their final theory exam under the old system of hospital-based nursing training. They're the last group to go through the nursing certificate course, which has been replaced by the diploma of nursing requiring full-time study at a tertiary institution. For staff, this celebration brought a moment of sadness. The staff have been reduced from 25 2 years ago to just 6 now. However, most have been absorbed into the college training system. The others are teaching the new nurse aid course, which began at the Tech this week. But for students, pre-exam tension disappeared as the revelry took over. And how do they feel to be the last group of hospital-trained nurses in Newcastle?
I'm sure that everyone's disappointed about finishing at the Technical College today. I'm looking forward to get back into the hospitals and put into practice what they've learned within this institution.
Work on Stage 1 of the Harbour Foreshore development began almost 2 weeks ago, much to the horror and disgust of nearby residents. Describing it as the harbourside rape, the East End Residents Group has protested against construction on 3 points: the height of the development, the density of the area and road access, or lack of it, which will create parking problems for both residents of the Housing Commission units and those visiting the nearby beach. At a public meeting today, a motion was unanimously passed to send a petition to the Legislative Assembly, asking that construction of the housing development stop for 2 main reasons, namely the postponement of any work until the election of the Newcastle City Council, so that some public debate can occur.
They could speak for us. In fact, when this development was passed by the new administrator of Newcastle, it was passed at a bad time, just when our council had been dismissed and over the Christmas period.
The other reason involves changes to the original plan for the Harbour Shore redevelopment, which was agreed to by Newcastle residents. But if the bulldozers go ahead, then the East End residents say there'll be nothing left but bad feelings and memories.
We read so much and hear so much of why does it always happen to Newcastle. It happens to Newcastle because the people don't become aware until it's too late, and we only wish they had become aware much sooner.
The Fandango showed the scars of being buffeted by rough seas during the 5-day ordeal as she lay calmly berthed at Laurelton. Richard and Helen Dinkin from California own the vessel and have been sailing her around the Pacific for the past 5 years. Retired yachtsman Gordon Dunn from Sydney joined the team last week, and together they set sail for Tonga. On Wednesday, the vessel lost its rudder, but worse was to come when the propeller became tangled with rope and the mast broke. The crew, however, was determined not to abandon ship.
Well, you just do whatever you can, huh? I mean, hang in there, right there?
The Fandango was taken in tow by the police-launched Doyle on Saturday, about 170 kilometres out to sea. The incident has altered the crew's plans, but not their love of sailing.
Change our plans and maybe dispose of the boat here if we can, and go back home and regroup and see if we want to get another boat or if we want to travel around some other way.
Meanwhile in Newcastle, League manager Graham Hards probably summed up the feelings of most supporters of the code.
Well, I, along with most other people in Newcastle that believe that we should be in the competition, are very disappointed about the decision.
Graham, you surprised?
Not really surprised. We thought we were in with a chance for 87. We had done quite a lot of work the last month on it, but hasn't bounced our way, so there's not much we can do about it at this stage, unfortunately.
Is it true that the lease being negotiated by the League with the International Sports Centre Trust with Sydney Rugby League in mind must now be in jeopardy?
Well, it's got to be in some sort of doubt. I believe the decision will be made in the next few months concerning Newcastle Rugby League's involvement in the International Sports Centre. Also do believe, though, that the New South Wales Rugby League must put us into their competition, and hopefully now they'll do that in 1988. The submission we put in last year, we stand by that submission. We believe it more than covered the criteria, and because there's a lot of Sydney clubs that evidently don't, because they're going to put one out. I certainly wouldn't be like to be making the decision now of who they're going to put out of the competition.
That's going to cause a furore in Sydney League, of course.
There's no doubt about that.
So it's back to the drawing board?
Yeah, sure, but still we've taken a few hits the last couple of years, and maybe for 1988 we'll be successful. I certainly hope so, for the sake of rugby league and the vast army of supporters we've got for Newcastle entering the Sydney competition.
The proposed shopping complex consists of a supermarket, specialty shops and car parking facilities on an area of land which fronts Thomas, Macquarie, Edgar and Herbert Streets, Belmont. The land is presently occupied by houses and a Coles supermarket. Entana Proprietary Limited lodged a development application with the council 5 months ago. At last night's council meeting, a decision on that application was deferred until next week. While approval of the development application is virtually guaranteed, several of the aldermen are concerned about some of the conditions the council is trying to attach. While some of these relate to matters such as parking and road access, one recommendation calls for the company to make contributions to facilities which may be affected by large numbers of people coming to the area. The report suggests $64,000 be paid for increased usage of the public library, that $75,000 be paid for childcare facilities, and that more than $180,000 be paid for public open space. Alderman Hughes described this recommendation as immoral. The Mayor, Jeff Pasterfield, says it will be subject to scrutiny before next Monday, but that the Council is at liberty to ask for contributions of this nature.
Under the Act, the Council is empowered with certain requirements that it can apply and ask the developer to provide where they're bringing large numbers of people to a particular centre.
But why should a developer have to put in $64,000 towards a public library?
The developer has to provide some contribution towards embellishment of the local surroundings, and it's not specified as to what in actual fact that applies to. It's not necessarily wrong that that type of application can't be made.
The body of Kevin Bartley was discovered in this block of flats in Ocean Parade at about 9 o'clock last night after the alarm was raised when Bartley failed to meet a date with a friend at a nearby hotel. Police found the mutilated body in the blood-spattered bathroom, half submerged in water in the bathtub. The body had received numerous stab wounds to the chest and back, and the man's throat had been slashed. 2 kitchen knives were still embedded in his chest and back. This morning, police began a wide search of the area looking for any shred of evidence which might suggest a motive for the brutal killing. Sydney man Darryl Braid, staying overnight in one of the other flats, says he saw a man enter Bartley's flat.
Whether there was someone
he heard
else
a scuffle
in
break
the car
out.
as well, I wouldn't
He says
know,
he then saw a man run off.
I gave it a couple of minutes and then I looked out across there. That bloke was looking at me, and then the car took off and then he just bolted on up the road.
So then what happened? Did you call the police?
No, I didn't call the police. I just come back in and watch TV.
Usual thing there, isn't it?
Yeah, well it is. It's a noisy place. There's people coming and going.
18-month-old Christopher Nolan from Merriweather was being pushed along the pedestrian crossing by his grandmother when he was knocked unconscious by a motorcycle. He was rushed to the Royal Newcastle Hospital where he remains in intensive care in a serious condition. But according to pedestrians who use the crossing regularly at the intersection of National Park and King Street, Christopher's accident is only 1 in 100. Today, employees of Walton's rallied together with banners warning motorists and pedestrians of the traffic danger.
There's always accidents here on this corner, people not stopping for people. Near misses, I've nearly been hit a few times.
What seems to be the problem? Is the cars slowing down or just zooming right through?
Cars don't seem to see the people going across the roads, or they don't want to stop. That seems to be the main problem.
Do you cross on the crossing?
No, I'd rather cross over there where it's safer.
3 years ago, a female employee of Walton's was knocked down crossing here. She received serious injuries and hasn't been able to return to work. Since then, her fellow employees have signed petitions and begged the council and politicians to have lights installed. It now seems that their efforts weren't in vain, but why has it taken so long and so many accidents?
Well, we've got probably a lot of problem intersections right throughout not only Newcastle but the whole of the state, and trying to get the finance to do and rectify these things is quite a major concern. However,
Member
this
for
one
Newcastle Arthur Wade says it wasn't only lack of finances that prevented the installation of the much-needed traffic lights.
Could be lack of funds, but it's also a lack of priorities. Now, this one is a real dangerous one because it's a wide expanse of space, and it always has been an accident-prone area. And you can see the same system if you look at the Workers' Club crossing at Union Street up that end. And these are difficulties that we have to face, and at least they're being overcome.
Work on the $7 million upgrading of the Woy Woy Tunnel is causing all the trouble. To reduce the disruptions to weekday services, the rebuilding of the tunnel is taking place on the weekends. But construction has caused problems, resulting in the cancellation of some regular services, overcrowding and delays, which passenger Sharon Duffy has experienced firsthand. Last Sunday night's express train from Sydney to Newcastle turned into an uncomfortable and extended journey.
15 people standing in the passageways, in the corridors. That included children as well as older people. In the end, we just ended up sitting down on the floor, just trying to get any way of relaxing a bit, because we were on the train for over 3 hours, which was only supposed to take 2 hours.
Well, the SRA say they can't assure you a seat on the train, even though you've paid for a ticket. How do you feel about that?
Pretty annoyed, but it's the only way I'm going to get back to Newcastle on that train. That's the most convenient time for me. Possibly SRA should get their act together and organise a better service. I mean, that's what they're there for. They're to provide a service for us.
The State Rail Authority declined to comment on camera about the disruptions. As yet, they've given no indication of when work will cease and passenger services on weekends will return to normal. However, the State Rail Authority Chief Executive David Hill says that investigations are now taking place and he apologises for any inconvenience.
Plans to extend the Hunter Street Mall were first mooted early last year, when a survey of property owners in the area was undertaken. 7 of the 13 owners who replied favoured some form of extension. A report prepared by the city's planning department and adopted at yesterday's meeting favours ultimately extending the mall through to Watt Street, with north-south access remaining along Bolton Street. The administration has now given the go-ahead for plans to be prepared. These will be put on display to generate public comment. A consultant will also be appointed to address issues such as the integration of the existing mall and the proposed extension.
Well, 32-year-old Sheetha went missing while fishing with a friend last night. A search by the police helicopter from Sydney, the police launched oil and rescue units found no trace of the man. This morning, Polly 1 was back on the scene. Oil rescue units around the including surrounding bushland, police made the decision to scale down their operations and will make further inquiries this afternoon. Last night at about 7 o'clock, police received a report a man had been washed from rocks at Dudley Beach while fishing. Immediately, a full-scale search was mounted involving the police helicopter Polly 1, flown in from Sydney. The police launched oil and at least 16 rescue and police personnel. When the 32-year-old fisherman wasn't found, the search resumed this morning. The operation was intensified with the addition of more police and a RAF crash boat. The full-scale air, sea and land search continued throughout the morning, but still no trace of the man was found. And then this afternoon, after further inquiry, the police pulled off the search and charged a 33-year-old man from Belmont South with creating a public mischief. He'll face Belmont court next month. Police say the cost of the full-scale search will run into several $1,000s and prove a costly drain on resources, time and police manpower. But despite that, they remain philosophical, saying the operation was good practice in the event of a real emergency.
In Australia, and
Dr. Day grew up in Maitland and is now a research fellow with the Centre for Resource and Environmental Studies at the Australian National University. In her first book, Water and Coal, she discusses the conflicting demands of industry, agriculture and recreation on the hunters' limited water resources. She says there is no overview of where the water goes and is critical of various government departments all taking separate decisions that affect the supply, such as building power stations or approving coal mines. The loser, she says, has been community recreation. There may soon be not enough water left in the rivers even to swim in.
I think we need to look at river systems themselves. And in Australia, for example, most of our rivers are very badly managed in Australia. We don't have comprehensive plans for managing riverine corridors or how much water to leave in rivers. When you've got a reservoir and you construct one, you allocate water to all these various users downstream. But people very often don't think of what you leave in rivers as flow. That's called in-stream flow or environmental flows. How much water do you need in a river for recreation? How much do you need to preserve water quality? How much do you need for visual amenity, for picnicking, for canoeing, etc., and to preserve wetlands? And those sorts of issues and questions aren't being really thought about carefully enough by government agencies in most states.
Prison officer Bob Bell has worked at the Maitland jail for the past 8 years. Last Friday, he was sacked. The dismissal has resulted in not only an industrial issue, but his fellow officers are now calling for a political inquiry into the matter. Mr. Bell was found guilty of disobeying an order, but the prison officers say there's more to the story. They say that while working overtime on a rostered day off, Bell asked permission for time away for a personal matter. He was refused, and this led to confrontation with a senior officer. Bell took sick leave in August last year, but on September the 7th, the Department of Corrective Services and the Commonwealth Bank stopped all access to Bell's family account at Hamilton, an act described as highly illegal by the Industrial Commission. The Prison Officers Union is calling for the dismissal of those responsible and the reinstatement of Prison Officer Bell. They will now seek support from the Minister for Corrective Services, John Ackerster, when he visits the jail tomorrow.
We find it difficult to believe that a man could be dismissed for what Mr. Bell was dismissed for, but someone could do what a judge of the Industrial Commission has described as illegal, and there'd been absolutely no action or concern taken with those persons.
The prison officers will return to work tomorrow at 8 a.m. for talks with the Minister of Corrective Services. They'll be seeking what they describe as justice in the dismissal case of prison officer Robert Bell, where they say the punishment did not fit the crime.
The contest with the distinctly Australian flavour was all for a worthy cause, to raise money for the Maitland branch of the Cancer Appeal Committee. And with this in mind, a total of 24 starters fronted up to the pie stacks. At first it seemed the contest's only woman, Sue Tuft, was in there with a chance, but the competition proved too tough. The winner, Wayne Cook of Gwendolyn, collected $100 first prize by consuming close to 14 pies throughout the course of the evening. This fell well short of the world record of 55 pies in 12 minutes, although organisers insist that record was set using a crusty cousin of the Australian dish, the diminutive party pie, and is therefore not worth counting.
4 pies, 3 bites.
The reason it was cited there, because of its location of convenience, the fact that it blends itself very well with horticulture. That's to say you've got sensitive things that do occur with a School of Horticulture. And of course the other aspect of it is that it's convenient to everyone that's in the Hunter region. Most importantly, it's got the infrastructure for those block students that come from all over New South Wales. So it has a lot of other spin-offs. And of course it's assured them for the next 20 years they have a site that they can develop. Those sort of things don't happen overnight, but it can now be put into the Capital Works program for the development of that site pretty much straight away.
This is one of the commercials at the heart of the National Farmers Federation campaign, which is being presented under the banner of Our Country. The motto is "You can't take the country out of our country," and it's a strong appeal to patriotism. Paul Cronin is the key presenter in a series of 7 commercials which stress the importance of agriculture to Australia's economic well-being. The program was launched in Melbourne's Southern Cross Hotel on Thursday morning. NFF President Ian McLaughlin went to great pains to stress it was not a political statement.
This program is totally non-political. It's aimed only at improving knowledge and understanding of agriculture in Australia's towns and cities. It's totally divorced from NFF's political activities.
11 of Australia's largest companies have sponsored the program. There's also an Our Country education kit, which will be distributed to more than 8,000 schools around the nation, and it's likely to be used by more than 1 million students.
Our farmers are leading the fight back by developing export markets and helping Australia grow.